Salutations, denizens of the internet. I'm Firebite27, and welcome to another random idea I had recently. This is going to be a bit of a long explanation. If you don't know this about me, I'm a pretty big fan of anime. If you don't know what anime is, somehow, I don't know what rock you're living under to not know what it is, but it's basically a blanket term for Japanese animation. Everything from Pokemon to some other stuff, whatever. Look, point is, I really like it, and if you are a Transformers fan like me, then there's a good chance that you are either A, already an anime fan, or B, you are somewhat interested in anime because of Transformers Armada or any of the other series. So, regardless of how many people show up to the stream today, I am going to do my darndest to show you all a few of the anime that I have enjoyed over on the anime streaming service known as Crunchyroll. And before I go any further, I'd like to specify that I have not been sponsored by Crunchyroll. I'm not being paid to say this. Hell, they haven't even offered me like a free membership in exchange for doing this. This is free publicity of my own accord. So there's going to be no impact whatsoever on my opinions expressed in this video / stream. And if you're just joining us now, I hope that you enjoy this stream because Lord knows I am probably going to enjoy it a little bit. Anyways, let's fire up some Pizza Tower music and get on with it. Alrighty, so first things first, before I go into the anime on this list, I want to clarify one thing for all of you at home, and that is, what the fuck is an isekai? And you'll hear this term thrown around a lot in circles where anime is frequently discussed, and it's for good reason. Isekai is a very popular genre of fiction, specifically in anime. I hope you're all following so far. It basically involves the main character being transported to another world. A few Western examples that you may be familiar with are the Chronicles of Narnia, more specifically the in the entire Chronicles of Narnia, actually. More specifically, the concept in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. If you're a fan of the Disney Channel, or more specifically Disney animation within the past decade, the Owl House and Amphibia are also great examples of this. When translated literally from Japanese, it means other/different world, and it has become a default genre name for stories featuring the concept of visiting another world, mostly because, well, it's used so frequently. And believe me, it's going to pop up a lot in this video because I'm not afraid to admit it to the anime snobs in the audience. I am quite a big fan of the isekai genre. So, without further ado, let's get into our first category of anime that I'll be discussing today, my top 3 favorite laugh-out-loud comedies. And we'll start out with my third favorite, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Synopsis: a dragon attempts to become the lesbian The synopsis of the series that I can best provide is: a dragon attempts to become the lesbian trad wife of a corporate slave. Hijinks both wholesome, hilarious, and wholly uncomfortable follow. And this last bit is the reason why this anime is my number 3 comedy, because there are some bits in it where I just can't really comfortably recommend it to people because there are some scenes that will make you uncomfortable. More specifically, this dragon right here, the one with the greenish yellow hair, Lukoa, she has some, we'll say, emphasized assets, and she keeps on rubbing them in the face of a young boy, and those scenes always make me uncomfortable. So, I really don't want to play moral police here or whatever, but I would let you know that those scenes are the least comfortable for me to watch personally. But other than that, a lot of the humor just comes from how enthusiastic having an eldritch being like the Toru here as an over-enthusiastic housemaid is. It's just so funny, her enthusiasm and all the different ways that ends up playing into the narrative in some hilarious ways. Like she'll be told to go after a purse snatcher in the middle of a shopping district, and she does this absolutely illogical move where she just jumps halfway across the streetway in the middle of the marketplace and just bodies him with a single punch. It is awesome and hilarious. But then we've got some very cute moments, like from Kana Kamui here, this little dragon girl. She is also a dragon, and she is one of Toru's friends from the other world. And she is protected by basically the entire Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid fandom. I've been trying to. I have a few friends at work who love anime, and I have tried desperately to pitch them on this series with my ridiculous summary of the dragon lesbian trad wife. It has been it's somewhat reductive because this series is actually like there's a lot of emotional moments in it, and that's part of why I like it. And also just like well, it's for why it's number 3 on my top 3 comedy anime on the Crunchyroll. It's just I don't think it. I think while it is great for emotional moments, it's not as funny as it could be, and that's ultimately why I'd put it at number 3. There are just things that I find funnier, like for example, Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world. See, exactly what I was saying earlier. It's not too long before Isekai shows up. Heck, you could even argue that Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is sort of a reverse Isekai where the fantasy world comes into the real world. But this is our first true Isekai. And the reason I love this show as a comedy is because I am a huge tokusatsu nerd. I love Kamen Rider. I love Ultraman. I love Power Rangers. The one I'm not too big on is the source for Power Rangers' material, and that is Super Sentai, mostly because it doesn't seem to take itself as seriously as the other shows on this list, on the big 3 of tokusatsu. I don't know. It's kind of a personal preference of mine. I prefer tokusatsu and stories that take themselves seriously, and that's part of why I like Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world. The plot synopsis is as follows. During the final battle against the evil organization, the Red Ranger becomes isekai'd into another world, and then continues to flabbergast the natives of the other world with the absurd tropes of the tokusatsu genre. So you've got the characters commenting on why the transformation devices are constantly yelling things at the user. You've got the characters commenting on how ridiculous all you've got characters like commenting on the constant posing and reuse of poses. You've got characters who are like you've got the characters commenting on why the heck they're suddenly in a mech cockpit and how weird the cockpit looks. It's very fun to watch all these tropes that I know so well get torn apart and like people. I think the thing that really just makes me laugh at this show so much is just the fact that I can relate to this show's main character because I love tokusatsu, but um at the same time, it's so niche that a lot of people over here in the West, a lot of people that I could interact with, don't really like it or get what I'm referencing or really understand what I'm doing. Like there was this one time in the middle, like when I was back in high school, where I did Kamen Rider Ichigo's little henshin pose, and the teacher assumed that I was pulling an Elon Musk. That is the most unfortunate thing that's ever happened to me because of my love of tokusatsu. People have assumed that I was pulling an Elon Musk and doing the salute that shall not be named because I don't like getting my channel terminated because I wanted to reference Kamen Rider Ichigo. Well, it is what it is, really. But anyways, my number 1 pick for comedies is probably I think a lot more people won't like trash me for holding this one as my favorite. Not like trashing people over their opinion is anything that's really that worth doing to begin with. And that is Spy Family, or as I like to call it, Spy's Family. In order to prevent World War III, a spy that makes James Bond look like a dollar store knockoff unknowingly adopts both a pink psychic-haired girl and a pink-haired psychic girl and marries an extremely deadly but socially awkward assassin. And this is somehow one of the funniest anime ever, whether it's from the social awkwardness. Oh, hey there, Lucky. Nice to see you. Welcome in. If you're just joining us, it's great to have you on the stream. Lucky is one of my friends that I've had since high school, so I'm very glad that he decided to show up for the stream. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. We have our three main characters: Lloyd Forger, the aforementioned super competent spy character. Then we have Anya, his daughter, the pink-haired psychic I mentioned, and Yor, the black-haired assassin. And Yor is probably one of the well, honestly, it's hard to say who's the funniest between these two. Yor is hilarious because her cooking is somehow deadlier than any of the poisons she could use to assassinate someone, and because she is so socially awkward because she doesn't have much of a social life outside of her work, her day job, I guess you could say. She has a day job working as like a civil servant, and it's honestly fairly hilarious. Like the first thing we hear is that one of her coworkers got creeped on by their boss, and so she asks Yor to just hock a loogie into his coffee, and she says, "Why? Do you think that will make it taste better?" It is so just like that is so relatable as someone with autism slash ADHD. That kind of social awkwardness is just very relatable, and I love it, honestly. Then we have Anya Forger, and the reason he adopted a girl or like a child in the first place is because he has to infiltrate an academy. Our spy Lloyd here has to infiltrate an academy for the elite with this girl as the student, so he can get close to a man who I can only describe as a fusion of Stalin and Hitler in terms of his appearance. He's like this super paranoid guy, and in order to prevent World War III, that guy has to have a close eye kept on him. So yeah, there's a reason why this can't fail, and the only way he can do this is by having his target close with this dictator's son, Damien. And on the first day of classes, you want to know what Anya does to Damien? She sucker punches him in the face. Just literally like, poof! Though admittedly, she had every right to do that after he basically insulted both her and her best friend, Becky. So, honestly, you don't feel sorry for him at first. However, this show is a lot like Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid in that it's not only really funny, but it's also like really heartwarming. And I can't help but love it for that. I love it. The thing I love most about anime, and the reason why this is the first video on this subject and why there will most likely be videos in the future, is because I love how anime, or more specifically Japanese media in general, doesn't feel like it's limiting itself to one or two genres. Western media feels like it restricts itself to a lot in terms of the genres it sticks to and like the tones it tries to hit. A good example of this is like Marvel. But if I go with a series like Spy Family here, then honestly, I don't feel like I'm being limited by a one tone in a single series, and that's a big part of what I incorporate into my storytelling. There's never just one tone that I try to adopt. I try to take whatever tone it fits a scene. In this case, Spy Family fluctuates between like wholesome family moments between these three weirdos who have suddenly found each other in each other's lives, and the ridiculous hijinks of their social ineptitude of like their okay, here's the best way I can put this. The reason they're all so awkward is because none of them understands what the term normal means, which, to be fair, I think a lot of people can relate to, especially people like me or LGBTQ people. We don't know what normal means, really. It's hard for us to define it. And that's exactly what these three characters nail so hard. Yor has been killing people since she was a literal child because she had to make ends meet for her family because her parents both died when she was incredibly young and she had a younger brother to take care of. The younger brother, by the way, is weird, very weird. He honestly, every scene that he's in kind of knocks the show down a peg in terms of my scoring system, but at the same time, it's otherwise good enough that I feel I can forgive that. But anyways, these three always struggle so much with knowing what normal is because they don't know what it is. Anya constantly bounced around foster homes because people kept on sending her back to the orphanage because they were kind of creeped out by her psychic abilities. And Lloyd also lost both of his parents at a very young age. His mother died in the war that preceded this. This Cold War story is the Cold War is feels like for anime it's such a rare setting for anime to take this Cold War situation, and it's honestly amazing how well it pulls it off. The intrigue, the humor, the romantic aspect, because despite what Lloyd might have you think from his dialogue, he doesn't want this family to end after the mission is over, which it may very well have to. But I'm hopeful that the family won't end, and I am so desperate for season 3 because not only were seasons 1 and 2 amazing, but so was the movie. Anyways, that's my top 3 picks for comedy anime. Why don't we move on to my top 3 picks for action? We've got intense action anime, which surprisingly, even though it's on Crunchyroll, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is not on the list. At number 3, we have Windbreaker. And the reason it's at number 3 is because, well, it's one of the newer anime that I've seen. I spent the last week watching this anime, and it's about a delinquent that joins a high school for fellow delinquents so he can become a delinquent joins a high school for other delinquents so he can become the strongest delinquent in the school. But it doesn't take long for him to learn that these aren't your normal delinquents. These are the guardian angels of the neighborhood that the character finds himself in. And they're honestly, they change it for the better. And that's a big part of why it made the number 3 spot. The reason it doesn't make it any higher on this list is because, well, for one, it's a newer anime. I don't really. I'll admit that I don't keep up with the manga or the source material, rather, that these shows adapt from. If they have source material, we'll see at least one later on that doesn't have any source material. But anyways, I don't keep up with the source material, and I don't know if the story will take a turn that I don't like in the future or not. And on top of that, I tend to like the JoJo style of weird powers for each character to use in battle anime. However, at the same time, this show wasn't trying to be that. It was trying to be a very realistic battle anime, and that really shows in just how brutal the action is. The characters don't just like randomly get better. They break limbs, they bleed from the mouth and nose. Stuff that I don't really see in other shonen anime. Oh boy, that's another term I'm gonna have to explain. Shonen anime, for those of you who are not familiar, basically means anime that's made with a boy audience in mind, like a young men audience, like a kids audience. I mean, like from like ages 3 to 11, or I guess 3 to 13, I guess would be a better way to put it. And this show is just so brutal in its fight scenes, and I love that. I'm just gonna undo a cricket manic real quick. But anyways, I love Windbreaker, and despite the fact that it's only at 2 seasons, I know that I'm going to be around for season 3 when it happens, because I'm pretty damn sure it's going to happen. It is such a good anime, and it deserves its 3rd season. Even though season 2 isn't finished airing as of my watching it on Crunchyroll. But I will be back once it does get its 3rd season, which hopefully it does. And for number 2, again, another fairly recent one I've enjoyed watching, My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Now, I will admit that I'm not a super big fan of My Hero Academia. When I was getting into my weeb phase, if you don't know, for those who don't know, weeb is short for weeaboo, and it means anyone who's sort of like from the West but obsessed with this Eastern media, like Kamen Rider or anime. But anyways, as I was saying, I welcome, Courts. It's good to see you. I'm doing an entire list of these series that I've enjoyed watching on Crunchyroll. And I do highly recommend checking out the manga because occasionally the comics that these get adapted from basically make some changes to the shows, and sometimes those can be for the worse. Like Soul Eater specifically, that was one of my first anime. The anime adaptation was made while the comics were still ongoing. So the ending of Soul Eater is not as good in the anime as it is in the manga. I mean, comic. You see, I'm trying to make this more digestible for people who aren't in the know, because I really could have used someone to explain these terms to me in a way that made sense. Anyways, My Hero Academia Vigilantes is a prequel to My Hero Academia. Again, I did enjoy My Hero Academia when it was like first coming out as an anime, but I've since fallen off. But this series is a prequel, and in my honest opinion, I'm enjoying it a lot more than My Hero Aka. Though I hear that's not exactly an uncommon opinion, or an unpopular opinion, rather. It's about a wannabe superhero, much like My Hero Academia. However, unlike My Hero Academia, where this character has no superpowers in a world full of superheroes, My Hero Academia has a main character that has a seemingly useless superpower, which I think makes him a bit more relatable. Because, like, you're special, but in a way that doesn't feel ideal. And oh boy, that is somewhat relatable to someone who spent a lot of time in the special ed system. But anyways, this hero is going around illegally fighting off supervillains and trying to stop a superpowered drug from making the rounds. A superpower steroid, rather, that mutates people. It really feeds into my love of body horror, which honestly, totally awesome. Really love to see it. That's also a big theme in my number 1 pick, which you'll see soon. He does this at the behest of Hobo Batman, aka Knuckle Duster. He is really funny in that you like assume he's just like a murder hobo, like a lot of D&D players or bad D&D players choose to be. But it turns out no, he's actually got like a really tragic backstory like Batman. And he may be rough around the edges, but at the end of the day, he is still a pretty cool character. Anyways, then we've got the little pink-haired sidekick. Her name is Popstep, and I love her. I won't spoil her backstory, but these two have met before, and you'll see why if you decide to watch this. I highly recommend it. It's on Crunchyroll, like all of the anime on this list. It's also like she's also just like so like the Crawler here, that's like his superhero name. He's a college student, but she's in high school, and like you can really tell because like the Crawler is a bit more put together, but like she gets way more flustered way more easily, and it's really fun. Anyways, next up on the list, my number 1 pick for intense action anime is Kaiju number 8. In a world full of giant monsters, a 32-year-old sanitation worker becomes a monster after a strange incident that finally allows him to achieve his dream of fighting giant monsters. And man, oh man, I am so in love with the series that I actually managed to convince a few of my friends that I mentioned earlier from work who also love anime to check the series out, and they really liked it. Which honestly, that's just so cool. Plus, um, really, the reason I love this show so much and the manga that it's based on is because, well, for one, body horror, love body horror. Oh, Master Fire is here. Have I seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Bro, I use JoJo's Bizarre Adventure sound effects in my TV show. Of course, I've seen it. I will admit that I haven't seen much past part 3, and even then, part 3 was really dragged on for longer than it could have, but that's not what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about right now is Kaiju number 8. And Kaiju number 8 is awesome because, for one, it includes body horror. As I've said, I really love body horror that turns out to be cool because, like, this guy, he's a normal dude. I should have pulled this up earlier. I should have put this in the presentation when I was making it earlier. But Kafka, our main character, Kafka Hibino, he's a normal dude, and he ingests this like winged monster. It's and like instead and like it turns him into this thing right here, this skull dude. And that really reminds me of Kamen Rider, having a monstrous protagonist who is feared by most of the people he protects, but at the same time fighting anyway because he's motivated to do so. And because he wants to make sure that no one has to leave his Oh wait, really? Knuckle Duster from My Hero Academia Vigilantes also had a voice role as Megatron? Damn, that's pretty cool. I love that. Thanks for sharing. But anyways, back on subject. The fact that he transforms into a monster and he fights monsters and he's superheroic and altruistic, that's just I really like heroes like that. And that's a big part of why Kaiju number 8 became my number 1 action anime of all time. And I'm super excited for season 2 because, well, not only is this series like really cool and action packed, but it's also hilarious. And I'm ashamed to admit this, but unfortunately, it is one of the first anime, and rather one of the first pieces of media that I've ever seen in my life to get me to laugh at scatological humor. This scene is so ridiculous because Kafka has just transformed into this body horror monster, and suddenly he starts pissing from the nipples. I wish I was making this up. And it's so. Oh, that's exactly why. This is exactly. Quartz gets it. See, the thing that I love most about the Kamen Rider like aspects of Kaiju number 8 is the fact that, well, it's if you know Kamen Rider, then it's clearly got a lot of things in common with it, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it owes too much of its DNA to Kamen Rider. It feels like it's respects Kamen Rider in a way that doesn't doesn't like really it doesn't really like feel like blatant or baggy, I guess. And no, Quartz, unfortunately I have not seen Chainsaw Man, mostly because I don't really want to support Mappa. Apparently that studio is a sweatshop, and I'm more comfortable if I don't support Mappa. Though, in all honesty, there is at least one anime on this list that is from Mappa. So, unfortunately, I am going to give them some publicity, especially because I am looking forward to the second season of the show. But for now, let's continue on to category number 3, food porn. Anyways, first show at number 3, the lowest on the top 3 of my favorite like food porn shows is Food for the Soul. And no, I have not seen Food Wars. I just want to put that out there right now to any people who are like long-time fans. Oh, yeah, I'll definitely read the manga at some point, especially considering like I do understand it. As far as I understand it, there is a bit of Kamen Rider influence in Chainsaw Man. And you know me, I love Kamen Rider. You saw how bonkers I went during my Kamen Rider Blockies video. I love the show, so I'm definitely going to support the manga if nothing else. But anyways, as I was saying, it's about five socially awkward dorks from a college making a club all about eating and making food. Well, so they say at first. This girl right here with the darker brown hair, she made it just so she could goof off and play video games, but she ends up having to actually like step up and do the things that her club was actually established to do. I can't remember her name. I remember that her name is Makoto, or Mako-chan, and this is Hitsuji, and she is definitely the meme lord of the show. And by that I mean she is the funniest character in the show just because of her snark and her sort of like casual demeanor. She's just sort of like, I am fully over this shit, and I am just going to try and enjoy my life. She's just got that quiet sort of like the quiet energy that makes characters hilarious. And honestly, I love her for that. But yeah, this show does its food porn real well, though not as well as it does it with campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skill. This is the aforementioned show where, unfortunately, I have to give this animation studio Mappa a bit of publicity. I love this anime so much. The synopsis is an average Joe named Makoto ends up isekai'd into another world with the magic ability to shop for food and ingredients online. His cooking and online grocery store somehow seduce an eldritch doggo, a slime, and 4 goddesses, among many others, into being his friend. This is the eldritch doggo, Fenrir, aka Feld, and he is the most funny character in the entire show, I swear down. He is like a true foodie, and I love him so much. This is Makoto, and he's exactly what I said. He's just an average Joe. He's very much a straight man to everyone else around him, and that makes the show really funny, and I really like that. And this is Sue, the slime. They/she/he, I don't know what Sue's pronouns are, but they are adorable. Then we have the goddesses, Ninrir, the fiery one, the earthen one, and the water one. I can't remember the other 3 because they only show up in like 2 or 3 episodes at the end of the series, at least in terms of season 1, and I don't remember that much about them. But yeah, this is another isekai that I highly recommend, even though it is by Mappa, and screw Mappa. Anyways, we go on to my number 1 choice for food porn anime, and it is Restaurant to Another World. I love this anime so much. Unfortunately, Dungeon Meshi is not on Crunchyroll, and I haven't been able to watch it because I could only afford one streaming service at the time that I started up. That's still true. This Saturday, I'm going to get a High Dive subscription because I get paid this Friday, and then I'm probably going to make like a follow-up video where I talk about all my favorite High Dive anime in a few months from now after I've gotten to watch a bunch of them. But yeah, this anime is really fun because, well, a big theme here is just that I really like the anime that show the wonder and amazement people feel when something that's so mundane to us in the real world is suddenly in a fictional setting or a fantastical setting. And this is very much a reverse Narnia situation where a bunch of doors to our world appear in a fantasy world. And we get to see these various fantasy races enjoying Western food. Like, we get to see the first episodes about this eldritch dragon lady eating beef stew, and this demoness eating breakfast in this restaurant. And the characters are so fun. I'm really hoping that this anime also gets high up on the list solely because, well, I'll be quite frank with you. This was one of the first anime that I decided to check out when I started watching on Crunchyroll, and for that, it always will hold a special place in my heart. The and on top of that, it feels very mature in a way. And I don't mean mature in like blood and guts and swearing, this is the stereotypical thing that adults do. No, it feels mature in how quiet and laid back it is. It's honestly really quite relaxing to watch. And man, oh man, just watching this anime makes me want to go out and like actually cook the food that's in the anime. That's I am very much of the mindset that cooking is a life skill, not a gender role. And this anime has made me want to cook. Though, admittedly, not as much as things like the cookbooks that were made by my favorite TikTokers, YouTubers, and Sonic the Hedgehog. If and for anyone who's interested in like learning how to cook, like wants like a good cookbook full of recipes that are both really delicious and like really fun to make, I highly recommend the Sonic the Hedgehog cookbook, the official Sonic the Hedgehog cookbook. It has so many good recipes in it, from the chili to like the drinks. I really quite like the one that's like it's like this detox drink. Really energized me. It was like made with ginger, lemon juice, lime juice, and orange juice, and some salt. It was really good. Same goes with this like a sparkling blue raspberry lemonade that Sonic it has is like his drink, and it's like so good. And like also there's also like a ring of pigs in a blanket that with chili in the middle is dipping sauce, and that is so good. Honestly, I really, really recommend the Sonic the Hedgehog cookbook. Anyways, back on track. We'll go from the food porn into relaxing palate cleansers because I will admit a lot of these shows so far have been high energy and exhausting. So you might want something to cleanse your palate. And well, at number 3, we have my one of my favorite palate cleansers, Do It Yourself. Now, this is one of the few like original anime without any like manga or comic source material or like light novel source material. And there is a manga based off the anime that's out there, but I don't know much about it, honestly. Um, but this is about a pair of best friends separated by their choices to go to different high schools in a near future city. Series about them learning to reconnect over DIY projects. And it's really quite cute, honestly. I'm very much a big fan of this whole cute girls doing cute things genre. And that's not about to change with some of our next entries, like Mono. Again, this is one that's a bit more recent, but it is very relaxing. It's about a group of um, high school students who are in a photography club. But after the graduation of their senpai, upperclassmen, for those of you who speak English, they have to haul ass to try and not to get the club disbanded. They end up befriending a mangaka or a comic artist slash writer, if you prefer English, at a local snack shop and begin making frequent trips around Japan. It also has some crossover with my number 1 pick for palate cleansers and from the high action, high octane shows. So, yeah, I really recommend this one. It is slightly new, but at the same time, I really like it. It's definitely better than Nokotan. Anyways, my number 1 pick is for Laid Back Camp. And it's because it is about high school doofuses. With our main character, Nadeshiko Kagamihara, being the biggest doofus of all time. When she oversleeps at a campsite while trying to check out Mount Fuji, she ends up forming an unlikely she ends up forming an unlikely friendship with the, in my headcanon, autistic lone wolf camper Rin Shima. The story proceeds to follow the dorky hijinks of the camping club. And I really mean it. I really feel like Shima is an autistic stand-in because, like, she's very quiet. And also, I ship her and Nadeshiko because they bring out the best in each other. And even if it's not like a canon couple situation, I'm still gonna headcanon them as like a lesbian couple. I am very into Yuri, and I'm just so sad that I couldn't find more Yuri series to fit in here because, like, I love the Yuri genre. Mostly because like its romance series seem to move a bit faster than the average romance manga. Which, speaking of romance, that's our next category. But before we go any further, I think there's a bit of a friendship between the writers of Laid Back Camp and Mono because a bunch of the Laid Back Camp characters actually make cameos in a few episodes of Mono. And it's because like Nadeshiko wins an eating contest. We see Shima driving past the characters on her bike in that show. It's really fun, and it's my top recommendation because I have seen this show no fewer than I want to say 3 times so far, and I'm probably going to watch it 5 times. Especially considering that I'm probably going to watch it a million times more. Especially because they've already announced season 4, and I am very here for that. Anyways, moving on to my next category. Category 5, Love-Struck Dorcases. And we start off with one that, again, I've seen more recently, Aharon-san wa Hakarenai. A semi-slow burn story of a inexpressive tall king short queen duo, featuring some of the best deadpan I've ever seen in my life. These two are the main couple, and they are adorable together. They are both the same age, just for clarification's sake. In fact, they literally were born on the same day. It's hilarious, honestly. But like, they do ridiculous things. Like, she is a master of the claw game that you see in arcades, and like, I don't know how to describe it. They're just such a fun couple. Speaking of fun couples, I'm going to get a bunch of hate for this, but I really like Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out. I am so hoping that this show gets a 3rd season because it's so funny. If you haven't seen it, the synopsis is the bubbly and maybe overly confident Hana Uzaki takes it upon herself to be the loner Sakurai's best friend. An awkward but sincere romance develops from there. And honestly, this show is so funny. It does some of my least favorite tropes in anime of like, oh, I'm stuck and now my ass is hanging out in midair because I'm stuck in the bushes. But seriously, these two are so funny. I love them so much. They're so endearing, honestly. And even though I do know that a lot of people do get uncomfortable because Uzaki is both shorter and, as I said earlier, quite generously gifted with her assets. So, yeah, if you don't like it, you do you. But I can't help but love this show. And next up on my list for things that I unironically love, Miss Nagatoro would have also been on the list if I had done a 4th slot. Actually, yes, Master Far, I have seen One Punch Man. However, I'm not as big a fan of that as I am of like these kinds of shows with the awkward romances. I prefer more character-based stuff than like situation-based stuff. So I'm afraid I'm not as big a fan as you might expect me to be. But anyways, my number one choice for these sort of like awkward romances and teen romances is, drumroll please, Tomo-chan is a girl. And this is some pretty peak romance. It's about a tomboy who confesses her crush to her childhood best friend, but he pretends to be so dense about what's going on that she thinks that he's blissfully ignorant of her actual feelings. He's not. He's just incredibly scared of the idea of what might change about their relationship if he ends up agreeing to go out with her. Which, honestly, awkward, adorable, and I quite like it. Anyways, I'm gonna grab a quick snack. But yeah, I really love Tomo-chan as a girl. It is so funny. And here's a fun fact for you. I think her name is Carol. Her voice actor in both the English and Japanese dub is completely the same. It's the same voice actress, and I love that. And she is so hilarious. In all honesty, Carol she's a laugh riot. Same with our main character's ex-girlfriend. She is the deadpan in this series, and I love her for it. And then we come to the sixth and final category, the highly abbreviated Isekai shortlist. Courts might want to vacate the chat now because they are not a big fan of Isekai, as I recall. It's not like we haven't had Isekai already on the list. It's just this is specifically my favorite Isekai my favorite Isekai anime of all time. Sorry, just want to finish eating my granola bar. First off, the Devil's a part-timer. This is more of a reverse isekai, but it's basically everything you need to know about the show is in the title. It's about the final boss of an RPG who is forced to work at a copyright-neutral McDonald's after the heroine of the other world whoops his ass. Now, do be warned, if you decide to check out this show, during the second season, the art style does drastically change, but I don't hate it. I really think that it's still good even after that art change. And I still recommend it. Go ahead, take away my weeb card. I dare you. Yeah. Next up, Handyman Saito in Another World. This was one of my key inspirations for making She Who Stalks the Dungeon because it's, again, how magical would it appear to people of another world if something that was considered mundane suddenly showed up there? In this case, it's a handyman. He unlocks chests. He can test for booby traps. And honestly, this is a pretty good anime. It takes a bunch of disparate narratives and just brings them together in a truly epic way. And I mean that in every sense of the word. This is the kind of stuff I aspire to do. Have multiple narratives converge at a singular point and be cohesive. Next up is number 5, Headhunted to Another World from Salaryman to Big 4. An average salaryman becomes one of the Demon King's top generals and somehow manages to seduce one of his strongest pre-existing generals. This series is hilarious because of the failure in communication between these two and their romantic feelings for one another. And also just the way that despite what you might think of an ordinary salaryman, he actually has some strategic, his business acumen does come in handy quite a bit. Surprisingly. I didn't expect this anime to be great, but it is. It's definitely better than the other one about a guy who ended up getting isekai that came out during that season. It was something about a 40-year-old getting transported to another world. It had a lot of underage women falling for him, so it made me super uncomfortable. But this feels like a good version of that, in all honesty. He's still in his 20s, so it doesn't feel as creepy as the guy in his 40s being transported to another world and getting developing romantic feelings for younger women. Because that is not my shit. Let me tell you. Anyways, next one. Number 3, I'm in love with the villainess. My younger brother may be watching somewhere right now, and he is currently screaming that I didn't put this at number 1 because, well, we both love this Yuri anime. It's about a corporate slave who gets reincarnated into her favorite otome game, a female dating sim, with her crush, the villainess of the game. her immediate thought is, I can fix her. And then she does. She actually does manage to fix her. Oh, man. I will admit, this is a show that I went into with low to no expectations of because I didn't like how the manga handled it. Honestly, I thought the protagonist, Ray, was sexually harassing the villainess, and I wasn't cool with that. But as it turns out, no, this is actually a lot funnier than it turns out. And it seemed. And I genuinely quite liked it. So yeah, don't judge a book by its cover, or I guess an anime by its manga. It did start off life as a light novel, so there is that. And light novel adaptations tend to be peak for the most part, so long as the adaptation of the source, so long as the source material you're adapting isn't that weird. But yeah, I love it. Could probably come up with some other suggestions too once we're done with this presentation. Well, anyways, going on to my number 2 pick, My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. This one is ridiculous to me. The basic synopsis is a high school girl gets reborn as the antagonist of her favorite Otome game, and is destined to die or be banished for being an asshole. And somehow, in her attempts to prevent this future, she seduces the men and women of the entire ruling class in medieval Europe. Of this country in medieval Europe. It is. I wish I was joking that she managed to do it, but literally, she is seducing them left, right, and center. And I find that hilarious. Honestly, if you don't watch any other anime on this list, you should watch this just because Katarina Claes is the embodiment, is somehow the unintentional embodiment of bi panic, and it is hilarious to watch. She is delightful, and I will always love this character for that. And honestly, the other characters surrounding her, they're pretty hilarious too in their manic scheming. Like, you've got one character, like, you've got several episodes where we get to see the greatest desires of each character. And it's all various forms of trying to seduce Katarina. It's honestly hilarious, and I love it. It's just so madcap. I don't understand how Japan keeps on coming up with these concepts, but I love them. And then we have my final pick, number 1, Reborn as a vending machine, I now wander the dungeon. A vending machine fanatic dies in a traffic accident involving the device he's obsessed with. He wakes up in an RPG dungeon with his soul inhabiting the very same device he died trying to save. From there, he befriends an adventurer with the strength to carry him. From there, a dungeon-spanning adventure takes him to crazy places to meet brand new faces. And boy, with a concept like that, I have a feeling you might want to have to watch it because, believe it or not, despite how stupid, utterly ridiculous this concept is, the execution is beyond wonderful. Boxo is honestly hilarious because he's limited to only saying like the kinds of phrases that an actual vending machine in Japan would be limited to saying. Like, thank you very much. Please come again soon. I look forward to seeing you again. You know, that kind of stuff. And somehow he manages to work out a system with the people around him where he can communicate with them. He's one of the best protagonists in an anime that I've ever seen. Almost on par with the Rimuru Tempest, who, by the way, would have also been on the list if I didn't feel as though slime, reincarnated as a slime or whatever it's called, wasn't such a cliche choice. Because everyone who knows anything about anime knows about that time I got reincarnated as a slime. But I wanted to go different. I wanted to go with something that I knew a lot of people would would sort of just like react to with that one meme of the guy blinking real slowly. And that's exactly what this is. It is a hilariously dumb idea done to the best extent that it can be done at. And well, with that, thus concludes my favorite anime on Crunchyroll as of now. I may come back again in the future with some more recommendations for anime. Lord knows that there are plenty left to watch, but for now, that's all I have to recommend. And who knows, maybe during those future videos, I will recommend some of the more cliche options, because by then, I'll have undoubtedly watched more anime. But for now, that's all I really have to say. But until next time, this is Firebite27 over and out. I hope you take the chance to check out Crunchyroll and to watch some of the anime that I mentioned on there. But until next time, this is Firebite27 over and out.